Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Daily with Jay and Clay. We are glad you made it. We got some exciting news, kind of controversial. Look, like I always say, I'm not the. It's Clay. He's the one who is kind of coming up with the subject matter, and then I just go, yeah, sounds great. Let's do that. So I am going to kick it over to Clay to kind of give the little rattle down of what we're going to jump into, and I'm going to tell you now. I'm going to front load it with. This is good stuff, for lack of another S word that I could use. This is good stuff. You need to know what's going on. You need to be enlightened a little bit. And I think that the information that we're going to share today is that type of information that's either, man, I wish I would have known that before, or wow, I'm glad I know that because I'm moving into these next stages. And it's worth its weight in gold. So please hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, share with a friend. And look, the ask is really let the video run if you have the ability to do so, right? I get it. Everybody's busy, but doing that really helps to push this into the hands of others. So with that, Clay, I'm going to kick it to you. Please let us know what's on the agenda today, my friend.
Oh, yeah. So first, we are starting with just last Wednesday and Thursday. Over the span of both of those days, the Federal Register or Reg Info had updated the placeholder date for mental health, tinnitus, and sleep apnea, which is that's going to affect millions of veterans. I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably going to affect 80% of veterans who are currently rated right now. These are huge changes. It's one of the top, they're all top 3 claims: sleep apnea, tinnitus, and mental health. So we're definitely going to talk about that and what you need to prepare for. And then we're going to transition into what makes a good Nexus letter in DBQ. I think everyone just kind of, slaps the Nexus or slaps the DBQ on their claim, not knowing the content on, okay, well, what's the VA looking for? Just because your doctor says at least as likely as not, which is one element of a Nexus letter. If all elements are not present, the Nexus letter or the DBQ means diddly squat. You have to have every element of a Nexus and a private DBQ. But rolling back to mental health, tinnitus, and sleep apnea, we're just going to push them all in one. That date is April of 2025. And we can talk, there's a million things to talk about, Jason, but I think the main takeaway, there's 2 takeaways for veterans, at least in my opinion, now that the date has been updated. And I want your thoughts on them. One, someone's tracking this, right? Someone of the all power, all knowing of VA, VA SRDs, the Schedule of Rating Disabilities. They are tracking this. They haven't forgotten. People say it's not going to happen because it's been since 2022. That's false. Okay. Don't listen to that. It is going to happen and someone's paying attention. And the second thing is, although it might not be April 1st of 2025, it could be March, it could be June, July, right? Within that time frame, I would still use April 1st as a planning factor, right? If you are going to either take advantage of the increase, stay away from the increase, like sleep apnea, you'd probably want to stay away from that. I would use April 1st as a planning factor to say, okay, let's use this, placeholder as that date. And so I'm going to kick it over to you, Jason. What are your thoughts now that just last Wednesday and Thursday, it was updated?
I'm on the same page as you, Clay. Look, there's a group of people out there that do say, like, stop, saying that it's not happening. They talked about, that's old news. They talked about it. It never happened. The VA are changing all of the rating schedules. They've changed more than 50% of the rating schedules, and they're continuing forward. This will happen. It's a matter of when, not if. The second piece is the last rating schedule change, I believe, had a 5-year from originating to actually implementation, right? So 5 years. Okay, we're only at 2 and some change. So they could literally kick it another year past that date that's already there, right? So it's not if, it is when, and you need to be prepared. Now, I'm hoping, Clay, that we see the same thing that we saw with the last one, that the VA does push out an announcement, which does nobody any good because nobody reads their announcements except for us.
Yeah.
But then we turn around and share it with everybody else, right? But they'll give us a 60-day notice on implementation. Don't rely on that, right? Be prepared up front, because who knows? You might only get a week. Who knows how the VA is going to work? I don't think that there's any sort of real regulation as far as they have to notify you 60 days ahead of time, and they can do that simply by posting a little post on their website. So it could be 30 days, it could be 10 days, it could be two months. So one, be prepared, know that it is going to happen, just like you said. I'm just basically reiterating at this point. But the fact is that yes, it will be happening. Now, what do you do, right? If you have something like sleep apnea, well, now all of a sudden your shoulders can drop a little bit and go, okay, I got a little more time. And to your point, Clay, just because it says April doesn't mean that it's going to be April. It could be February. It could be November. Who knows, right? So I would say that you still need to act with some sense of urgency, especially with sleep apnea. If you're just getting your stuff together, or if you're discharging and you're coming closer to your 6-month window to file that BDD claim, you better be Johnny or Janie on the spot, because time is clicking and you want to make sure you get this stuff in. So this is an urgency message, right? For that claim. Mental health, well, you and I are torn a little bit, I think, with exactly how we think it's going to play out. And look, nobody's right until we see what happens anyway. Yeah. The one thing that we were right about, though, Clay, was, and I don't remember what video this was, but I'm pretty sure that we both agreed that this was probably not going to happen this year, that this was probably going to happen after the election. And look, here we are. So just wanted to do that a little bit, because there was people saying that absolutely it was for sure going to happen in the summer and watch out, and again, because of the proposed dates. But with the climate of everything, it was so I would think that the big thing here is, for me, and then I want to hear your thoughts, and we'll just talk about the three. So one, if you have sleep apnea and you have the ability to file the claim now, meaning you have your evidence, you're good to go, or you're in the military, you're getting ready to discharge, you're within your window of opportunity with your BDD claim, then file it, right? Work on that and get that done now. That would be sleep apnea advice. For tinnitus, I say the same thing. Don't wait. Right now, tinnitus, I believe, is easier than it's going to be. It's going to be less complicated, potentially. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen later. It's just probably easier now to get a tinnitus claim through. So you might as well just take advantage of that. If you have tinnitus and you've went to the doctor and they said, yep, you're got ringing in your ears. Yay. So I would file for that. For the mental health stuff, you have people that are waning, right? Going, this might give us a doorway into a higher rating through mental health once this change goes into effect. And so you kind of have different groups there. So you have the group of, I'm already rated and I think I might be able to get into something greater. Well, continue to read through the new proposed rating schedule and start documenting now, right? You don't want to wait till the last minute. Imagine if you had a good solid 9 months worth of evidence built up that are helping you fill those 5, what are they called? 5, not buckets. Domains. Thank you. 5 domains. Yeah, I'm rated for that. So anyway, so the 5 domains, right? So start working on documenting that now. There's no reason why you wouldn't. So start doing it now. If you have never filed a mental health claim ever, file it now anyway, would be my suggestion. Don't wait, because this could take 2 years, 3, who knows? Just because they moved the date doesn't mean they're not going to move it again. So file that now, and then just be prepared for a future change if it's going to be advantageous for you. That's kind of what I got, Clay. Back to you to see if you can fill some gaps or hammer home any points.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to phrase it as, what is actionable that you can do right now? We'll start with that. And then I'm also going to talk about what I see the effects could be. But as you said, Jason, we don't know We can just have, educated guesses, if you will. I do agree with you on sleep apnea. It's extremely so. Sleep apnea is the most difficult of the three, in my opinion. At the 50%, it's at 100% too. But most people are going to fall in that 50% category. It talks about if the treatment works, you're at 0%. Okay, which sucks. It sucks for disability. It's good the treatment's working. It's that weird. It's good, but it's good because it's bad, but it's bad because it's good. It's one of those things. Except for this is good for healthcare, bad for benefits. So that just sucks. Let's just be real about it. However, in that 50% criteria, it talks about comorbid conditions or comorbidities. That's probably the only time I'm going to say that, okay, because I can't pronounce it without thinking about it. And so if you can't wear your mask, and then it has examples like a skin condition on your face, if you can't wear your mask, then you still rate 50%. And then there's these notes. And so how 38 CFR goes, you have your diagnostic code. It'll be the diagnosis, in this case, sleep apnea. It'll be how it's rated. And then at the very bottom, anytime you see a note, that is like the VA saying, hey, listen to what I'm about to say. So that's how I would treat the notes. In that note, it says specifically a qualified medical provider must agree that you cannot wear your CPAP, which tells me a statement saying you have PTSD and you can't wear your CPAP, worthless, right? A lay statement say, from your spouse saying you don't wear your CPAP in your sleep, worthless. What is not worthless, and it goes back to what you said, evidence. If you had that 9 months of evidence saying, hey, healthcare provider, I cannot wear my CPAP because of whatever's going on, you kind of solidified that 50%. And that's what, if I was dealing with sleep apnea, and I'm looking at glass half full right now, because I can talk about how it sucks. I really don't like it. But glass half full, the VA is giving us a chance to say, hey, speak to your healthcare provider, get the evidence for the new criteria, and just go down that route, okay? Transitioning to tinnitus, I think we will see more peripheral vestibular disorder diagnostic codes, which is vertigo or dizziness. 6102, I believe, is the code. For tinnitus, because tinnitus is going to be roped under one of those. It's also hearing loss. I don't think we are going to see that many tinnitus diagnostic codes under hearing loss. I think we're going to see a lot under the vertigo dizziness scale, and then obviously
Meniere's
TBI,
disease.
or Meniere's, and then TBI and other neurological conditions. That part I think is bad, because if you have a TBI and tinnitus is now roped under that, you're going to get rated for TBI, but then in the long run of things, relative to how it's rated now, you would actually lose that 10%. Does that make sense, right? You would have a 30% for TBI, and then you'll have a 10% for tinnitus right now. In the future, it will just be 30% for TBI.
TBI,
so there's
no
some
10%.
Yeah, and that's a small number of veterans who have TBI and neurological conditions, and that absolutely sucks. By the way, one of my good friends is rated on SMCT, and his life sucks. That's probably the only way to say it. But that part's not good. I do think the tinnitus under vestibular disorders is good. I think we're going to see a lot more diagnostic codes for that, because I can't tell you how many veterans have tinnitus, submit vertigo secondary, and are denied. I think we're going to see that change a ton, because you won't need the vertigo secondary. It will just be vertigo with tinnitus, right? And mental health, Jason, I think is, and this is the whole reason we created this channel, is to talk about the nuance of things. And so many times Jason and I agree, other times we don't agree. And this is something that we actually don't agree on. I am of the opinion that the mental health changes are going to be more strict. There's really two reasons for that. One, the criteria is super in-depth. It's not a checklist of symptoms like it is now. If you look in the DBQ, I can complete, not legally, I can complete a DBQ for someone just by looking at the symptoms, right? If you look at the new criteria, how the DBQ is going to be structured is by those domains, and it's going to be lifestyle. So, okay, it's not going to be is I get 4 to 5 panic attacks per month, right? That's quantifiable. It's not really qualifiable if you look at how to measure a system over a long period of time. I teach assessments. I don't want to get too nerdy on it right now, but it's going to be qualifiable. So, okay, you have 4 to 5 panic attacks per month, but what's your lifestyle look like? Because some people that have 4 panic attacks per month can somehow make it through the day, right? They might have a panic attack in their car before they get in the office. There's a meeting. They're freaking out. They do their box breathing. I mean, whatever the heck you got going on, you walk into your meeting and you crush it. Some people perform. Some people need that anxiety level to perform at a high level. That's just one example. But it's going to be lifestyle based. So how does that symptom actually affect your cognitive domain, affect your interpersonal relationships domain? It's more lifestyle. That's one reason. 2 is we're expecting a CMP examiner to do this. And that is I'll be nice. I really don't like CMP examiners, right? VA, I think we praise the VA when they do good. We definitely call the VA out when they do bad. But CMP examiners are like, in my opinion, I would say 90% of CMP examiners are absolutely worthless. And now we're expecting a CMP examiner to run through the 5 domains, run through levels of impairment, look at evidence, talk about lifestyle pointed questions to actually say, hey, you are a 3 in that domain, instead of just check off some 2s, right? The 2s are going to be the easy thing to do. And I just don't see that happen. I hope I'm wrong. I pray I'm wrong. But after talking to a few, one of those being a psychiatrist, the level of understanding to actually understand the domains and like the qualifiable piece of mental health, I think it's going to be extremely, extremely difficult. And there's no way you're doing that in a 30-minute CMP exam. Not going to happen. But I'll get off my Debbie Downer horse there. And can you bring us back up, Jason?
Yes, I want to. Yeah. So, my view on it is good that now there's 5 different domains instead of a big bulk checklist thing. I think it's going to be equally easy to get to a 50 or a 70% where most people lie. I don't think it's going to be abnormally difficult to get to a 50% or a 70%. I think that, and this is the whole reason why we are doing this is, look, go to your doctor.
Yeah.
Document the appropriate things. Have the discussion about the 5 domains. If it's whatever, even if it's a VA psychologist or psychiatrist or counselor or whatever, right? It doesn't matter if it's a VA or non-VA. Hey, there's 5 domains that I want to cover to make sure that I get everything squared away on my VBA side. So I want to make sure that we cover these 5 domains. Here they are, right? And really, you want to make sure that you're documenting the severity, right? And have that conversation. Will you be a little more apt to get, I don't know, an easier collaborative effort if you work with an outside the VA psychologist? I don't know, maybe, right? Especially if you frame it in the sense of, look, I need to make sure that I document this stuff because I'm going to submit it to the VA so I can get reimbursed for my medical expenses, right? Sure, we'll help you out. What do you need? I need to outline these 5 domains of my life. And you know what? These 2 are fine. These other 3 are kind of shaky. And I have real problems, and this is what it is. And then that person, the psychologist, psychiatrist, or counselor, whatever, is going to have a conversation with you. What are the 5 domains? They're cognition, interpersonal interactions and relationships, task completion, life activities and navigating environments, and self-care. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you have 5 options to get your rating where you need it to be, quite frankly. I mean, instead of now all of a sudden you just have one condensed, you got to hit it all, right? You got to keep stacking it up. No, you can have low stack, and then have a couple big stacks that can drive you. Again, I believe people that are currently 50 or 70, pretty easy. They're going to probably be 50 or 70 on this with, in my opinion, a very good possibility if they document. I'm talking about all of this is upfront to the CMP. I mean, when have you ever said, Clay, rely on the CMP examiner to get it right? You've never said it. So why would that be any different here? Don't rely on the CMP examiner ever for any condition. Make sure you document it with your medical professionals, your team that you're working with for whatever conditions you have. Read your schedule of ratings. Make sure you're documenting everything, because inevitably the CMP examiner is going to F it up. And now you have all this other evidence that now the VA rater's looking to compare and contrast, not really the service connection piece, right? So CMP examiner gets the service connection piece right, but they get the severity wrong, right? So you got two things you're trying for here. So now the rater has conflicting information, right? And so they're looking at that, but they're going, wow, you've documented this for the past year. You saw the CMP examiner for 3 minutes. Okay, maybe they're going to give you a little more weight over here, right? Mm-hmm. And then even then, the VA understands they could still F it up. That's why there's higher level review. That's why there's supplemental claim. That's why there's the Board of Veterans Appeals. And there's people that win every single day at every single one of those higher levels. So if you prepare along the way, you're going to put yourself in a good position. And I believe that we're going to see 50s going to 70s, 70s going to 100. Not everybody. Some people might be where they're supposed to be, right? This is not a everybody's going to win. It's going to open the doors for some people that quite frankly should be rated 100%. It's opening up the door for them if they have some severe situations going on in their life, I believe. All right, that's where I'll leave it.
Yeah, no, I think what we do agree on is, regardless of what happens, the number one thing veterans can do right now is just, in almost every video, Jason and I mentioned this, it's talk to your healthcare team. VA, private, don't care. Just talk to your healthcare team and be transparent about whatever that looks like. Get that evidence up front. Veterans can lean on evidence, right? It's kind of like our protection coat. The second that you don't do that and you solely rely on the CMP examiner, whatever that examiner says now becomes your evidence. And I would, recommend against that, so to speak. But
and here, Clay, yeah, go ahead. Clay, and also you just made me think of it here, is that the more that you are involved with your claim process and understanding the schedule of ratings, what the VA is looking for and all that stuff, the more prepared you're going to be when you're sitting in front of that CMP examiner to say what they need to hear, because they're just sitting there. They're asking you questions. If you don't say the right things to them or you forget something inadvertently, most of them aren't like, so do you have any of this? Right? Most of them are just asking you open-ended questions and getting you to talk a little bit, right? They're not circling back to let you correct something. So, you're just another cog in the system for them. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh yeah. What it makes me think of is, if I was in that position, right? I'm already rated for mental health. I want to consider an increase. What would I do? This is going to seem a little diabolical, okay? And it kind of reminds me of my childhood. My cousin was 4 years older than me. We're the only two males in all of our households. And anytime, like, I'm taking a bike off one of those X Factor ramps that they used to sell at Walmart or whatever, he would always make me go first, make sure it's safe, and then he would go. And so I use that as an analogy, because if it was me, one, I would get all my evidence, I would have my intent to file ready. I would probably wait, look at the waters, see people on Reddit, people on Facebook, people on YouTube comments talking about increases or talking about decreases, and then feel that out with your evidence and then go for that. That would, I think, in reality, that's what I would like to do, assuming that intent to file, lines up, because you only have 1 year. And so it's like, okay, am I going to risk this back pay or not? But that's genuinely probably what I would do if I was in that position. I want to kick that back to you, Jason, and then we'll transition to Nexus and DBQs. What would you do if you were
I
in that
would not
position.
care about any of that
Yeah.
personally. I would focus on me and not run somebody else's race, right?
Mhm.
I don't know what kind of evidence they did. I don't know how much. I don't know their circumstances, right? They filed. This is what happened. You might have screwed it up. So I personally, and I've always done this, focus on me, focus on the schedule of ratings, focus on the care with my team, working with, in this case, the 5 domains, and making sure that I get each one of those just detailed. I would spend time there. I would spend time getting a letter that encapsulates all of that, that basically states, I've been treating veteran so-and-so for the last X number of years, and, through this blah, 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 blah. And in the 5 domains, I would rate them at 4 severity, 2 severity, 1 severity, 3 severity, right? And I would have that. I mean, Harry, who's to say I can't? All the information's there. It's not like this is hidden information, right? It's there for you so you can understand, communicate that with your medical team, and get back the information you need to help make the VA's job easier to rule in your favor. Getting that information from a qualified psychiatrist, psychologist, whatever, having all of that written down, it's in your files, it's on a piece of paper, you get the public-facing DBQ that then has all that same information embedded into it. If you have a severity of a 4 or a couple 3s or whatever the criteria are for the different ratings, and you feel comfortable, well, that means I should be rated this. Do it. Mm-hmm. I guarantee that if you get denied, well, I can't guarantee, but I would personally feel that even if the VA screwed it up, if I had to get it all the way to the board's going to rule in my favor. This is just dumb. You have somebody who's seen you for this many years saying that you're at this severity, and you were at a 70 before, and you're just going to the next level, which is 100. Come on, all day long.
Yeah.
Now,
assuming
on the other side,
yeah.
Now on the other side, working with my medical team, and they're like, yeah, you're here, right? And I read it all, and I contrast it back with the schedule of ratings, and I go, wow, I guess I'm still a 70. Well, then who cares, right? I'm not filing a claim for that. Leave it where it is. But if you have the evidence, right? This goes back to the poke the bear thing. If you have all the evidence that says that you should be rated 100% for mental health, are you supposed to not poke the bear because you're scared? That's a horrible way to live. I'd rather fight. I would rather fight. I would rather get, and I know this sounds weird, I'd rather get reduced so I could yell about it to every congressional member and everybody that I could think of, regardless of YouTube. Forget YouTube. Even if I didn't have YouTube, right? I would still do that because I would be pissed, and I would be livid if I had all the correct evidence, right? If I don't have the evidence, then you don't have the evidence. So it all goes back to what you always say, evidence-based, right? And educated, right? So if you used your educated mind and looked at what they needed, and you went and got all the evidence you need, and it's clearly saying you should be 100% based on everything the VA is saying, what do?
Yeah.
Do you just sit there and go, nope, I'm going to stay here. I'm staying at 70. Not going to do it. Not going to risk it. I don't know. Not me. I wouldn't. I would go do it. All on black, baby. Let's go.
Especially at that 100% for mental health, will put you in that SMC scale, right? Well, not that alone, but it sets the stage to be put into housebound, aid and tenants, whatever that looks like.
Right, and just the other things that open up, right? Like Champ VA and Chapter 35, and now you get your DOD card, which for some people actually means something, right? Because maybe you got a base that's really close to you and you'd love to go buy the gas from there, or whatever it is, right? You want to go to the PX, or you just want to, sit around and watch people march around because you don't have to, right? Whatever it is, right? But you get your, I don't know. Well, I guess you don't even need your DOD card anymore, because if you got a 10% rating, you can get on bases anyway. So whatever. That shows my age. Here we go. All
right. Okay, so solid. I want to transition into Nexus and DBQs now. And just if you're watching the full episode, this conversation is totally separate from the changes. All right. Although we talked about Nexus and DBQs, about the changes, this is going to be what makes a good Nexus and a DBQ. And so, Jason, I know you're a fan of getting Nexus letters and DBQs from your provider or the VA. Can we just start with that? What are your thoughts on Nexus and on DBQs from VA providers or from your private insurance? And then, broad statement, what is a Nexus letter and a DBQ from your healthcare team? Excuse me.
Right. So, a lot of people hear Nexus letter, right? It's usually those two words together. Nexus letter, Nexus letter. I need a Nexus letter. I need a Nexus letter. And I think that what happens there is that a lot of people start to believe I need a Nexus letter for everything. It's just part of the package, right? Because I hear we need a Nexus letter. A Nexus letter helps you establish your nexus, which is really the requirement, right? A Nexus letter is not required. A nexus is required, right? So if you are missing some real definitive evidence that shows that your condition manifested during your time in service or as a result of your time in service, and it is not a presumptive condition, okay? So that's important because presumptive conditions eliminate the need for the nexus. So it drops that requirement. So if you don't have anything that proves that your condition manifested during your time in service or as a result of your time in service, you need to really prove to the VA that it did manifest or is a result of your time in service some way, somehow, right? So maybe you had migraines through your time in service and you never documented it when you were in, and it wasn't until 5 years after service that you documented it. It's not impossible to get that approved, but it's going to take extra work, and you need to do one thing for sure, and that's provide the VA proof of the nexus. Now you're going to work with your medical professional and have them write you a Nexus letter. It's basically that medical professional saying that they've treated you, blah, 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 and that it is at least likely, and we'll get into what's a good one, but right now it's just what it is. So a Nexus letter, basically from the doctor saying that your condition is most likely or more than likely or at least likely as a result of your time in service in some way or shape or form or what have you. So again, just to kind of double down on, a Nexus letter is not required if you already proved the nexus through, I was diagnosed for my migraines when I was in service. That's the nexus. If I don't have that, now I need to build that nexus, and that's with a Nexus letter and along with other things to support that. With a DBQ, disability questionnaires are worth nothing if you don't know what to put in them, okay? Or if your private doctor doesn't know what the hell the VA is looking for, right? It's a blank form, okay? The one thing that drives me crazy, Clay, is how important other people make DBQs seem. Like they're the end all, they're the solve it all DBQ, period. Not if it's a blank form that you take to a doctor and you don't say anything, and then they just write in whatever they want, and then you get it and you don't even read it and you submit it. It could actually hurt you, right? So a DBQ is a blank form. However, it's in an organized fashion to allow you and your provider to work together to input information regarding your condition as it relates to the schedule of ratings. Wow, that sounded smart. And it's true, right? I mean, really, it is a blank form that's organized in a great fashion to help the VA determine your rating and so forth. And it's for you to work with your doctor and complete it in relation to the schedule of ratings, okay? You have to look at the schedule of ratings. If you're not going to look at the schedule of ratings and read your condition and know what they're looking for and understand where you fall on that rating and then take those same words and kind of embed that into the DBQ, don't even bother doing a DBQ. It doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. Now, you mentioned the VA doing a DBQ, which oftentimes they're supposed to by policy, but they don't. Which is, it's a whole other thing, and maybe we should try to champion some sort of change on that, because that drives me crazy too. If the VA is your sole provider of healthcare, and you're being pushed to go pay for an outside provider so you can get a damn DBQ, that seems like a slap in the face to me. So anyway, you should ask your VA provider if they would do one. And if they say no, fine, complain, do whatever you're going to do. But it is what it is. If you have a private healthcare provider, or you decide to go to a private healthcare provider because you feel as though you really need a DBQ completed to help you with your claim, that's on you, right? I've done that myself. I've went and paid out of pocket for a private provider to see me regarding my one specific condition, gave them some information on it, and saw them a couple times and got my DBQ and a Nexus letter and all that good stuff. So it's not saying that that's an impossible thing or you shouldn't do it. You should do what's right for you. The DBQ, again, needs to really pull in the information from that schedule of ratings. Now, what do you do, Clay, if nobody will do a DBQ for you, or you can't go pay out of pocket to see some healthcare provider on outside of the VA, so you're just kind of stuck at the VA? It's not the end of the world. Remember, it's a blank form with information on it. So what you could do is you could have that conversation with your VA doctor about your signs and symptoms as it relates to the schedule of ratings, and say, hey, doc, I really want to make sure that these words get put into my file, right? And you can print it out, you can read it to them, you can hand it to them. You could write up a letter yourself saying that the patient, yourself, veteran so-and-so, has experienced the following signs and symptoms from their condition over the past 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, whatever, and go give it to the staff, the little where you make your, I need to get this into my medical record, please, and have them put that into your medical record. It's no different than you saying it to the doctor or writing it down and having it added into your medical record. Now it's part of your medical record. Ta-da! Mm-hmm. So that's kind of I know I kind of talked a lot, Clay.
No,
sorry.
That was good.
So Nexus, DBQ, internal, external, and then the what if there isn't. Back to you.
Yeah, I want to start with, well, first, I like how you make the distinction of the Nexus requirement, as in the big three, and then a Nexus letter. Two totally different things.
Totally.
And you're right. People believe that they need a Nexus letter for every single claim. And I don't want this. I want to set the ground rules here, okay? It is of my opinion that, and I'm going to focus on private, like paying out of pocket for a private Nexus and a private DBQ. It's my opinion that veterans should only consider that on two options. Option number one is in appeals only. You're really going to see Nexus letters shine in appeals and private DBQs shine in appeals, specifically the supplemental appeal. Because think about it. You have your initial claim. If you have the in-service event and you have the current diagnosis, and trust me, I'm not a fan of CMP examiners, but it doesn't take a genius to see evidence from service and a current diagnosis and say, oh, put those together. The overwhelming majority of service connections are done exactly like that, without a private Nexus, without a private DBQ. Now, my opinion, option one, supplemental appeals. And I'm also going to throw in the Board of Appeals. If you're going to the board, I really don't see a reason you would not get a private Nexus. Because that is, we're talking about pro beta value there. It's just, that's kind of outside of my wheelhouse, but that's my opinion on appeals. When should veterans consider, or not should, when can veterans consider a private Nexus and a private DBQ on any initial claim? And I'm going through every scenario I can possibly think of, and there's only one. Let's say you're at 93% in this, mental health secondary to lower back, which is a difficult claim, by the way. That even at a 30% criteria would push you up to 100, and you just want to go all in, all eggs in this basket. I would, although I'm a fan of the appeals thing, I think in that scenario, I could at least support the veteran saying, hey, I think it's a good idea. I would go to a psychiatrist, get that depression secondary to lower back, Nexus letter, and a DBQ. If you're not one of those situations, I would probably never recommend you to get a private Nexus and a private DBQ. Now, can you? Absolutely. If you have, the available funds and you don't care, or you just want to, not buy Starbucks for 6 months, that'll probably afford a Nexus Letter with how expensive Starbucks is, right? If you want to do that and make a very strong claim up front with an initial claim, can you do it? 1,000%. Go for it. It's just my opinion that it's not needed because obviously evidence from service and a current diagnosis, it's there. Now, I do want to transition into what makes a good. Actually, before I do that, you had said something, and I totally want to hit on it, Jason. You had mentioned, getting specific words into your medical file. I am a fan of that. I would recommend using the app, the VA's Health and Appointments app. You can set up appointments, get prescriptions, do everything, and guess what? You can also send a secure message to your healthcare provider, and that message verbatim is put into your blue button report. And so it's tracked.
Nice.
Right? The VA, your healthcare team has to read it. And so, for instance, this might be a little TMI here. Maybe a couple weeks ago, I sent a secure message to my healthcare team about a TBI clinic and just listing out some symptoms. Now, I have nothing to do with VA claims at this point in my life, right? But I want to communicate my symptoms to my healthcare provider, and that's in my blue button report right now. If I downloaded it, I could Control F, and that's just a very easy way from your phone in about 10 minutes, right? You can have that put into your record, and then that will also prompt your provider to go speak about it. You know, they might ask you if you want an appointment, telehealth, in person, whatever that looks like for you. The secure messaging system on the app is I'm a big fan of.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. Yes, do that. And then say, yes, I just want a telehealth appointment to double down on what I just said.
Yeah, there we go.
That's sweet. And then they validate it, and now you're super solid. What an easy way. And I think that people are missing the boat with that. We get so wrapped around the axle that it has to be a certain way, and it doesn't. You know, if you do it this way, and let's say that you do not do a DBQ, okay? So no DBQ because it's the VA. They said no. But then you did it this way. You typed in all that information. Here's the things that I'm experiencing, which is really the whole reason you're utilizing a DBQ is to show the severity and that you meet the criteria for a specific rating, okay? So you're going to do that in this blurb, submit it, and then when they reach back, you say, yes, I want a telehealth appointment. Yeah, it's been like this for the last 5 years. And, is there, I'm just wanted to make sure we get that documented. And, is there anything else that we can do? Whatever your conversation is. And then they'll validate that they had that conversation with you. And now when you file your claim, if they deny you on the higher rating, I can file a higher level review with an informal conference and point out in my medical records on such and such date that I provided this. And then I had the telehealth appointment that doubled down on that, talking about the past 5 years, I've been at the same level. Why 5 years, by the way? If you have been, right, you must have been for 5 years or more. But as long as you've been more than 5 years, you need to say it, whether it's 5, 7, 10, because it will make it a static condition. Right? Because now you've been the same for 5 years. So the 5-year rule. So ideally, it should be a static condition. Anyway, I'm getting all excited and ramped up now.
I know applications on iPhones might be new to you, Jason. No, I'm kidding.
Wah. So, but that's a great thing, though, man. I'm glad you brought it up.
It is
for real. That's
the secure
important.
messaging is awesome. Now, the DBQ and the Nexus, I want to talk about the content of these because a lot of people they just hear private Nexus, private DBQ. They go for it. I can't tell you how many Nexus letters from one of my good friends, actually. I've read his Nexus letter, and I'm just like, dude, this is not good. It's missing. Like, you don't even have a diagnosis, right? And so generally people say Nexus and DBQ. For the purpose of this, I'm going to reverse those, talk about the DBQ first. The DBQ, Disability Benefits Questionnaire, is the foundation of the Nexus. No DBQ, no Nexus, right? And I'm saying DBQ loosely there because how the DBQ is structured, and they're all the same. It goes, who you are, blah, 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 your information. It talks about who can complete that. So if it's PTSD, The very first person's board certified psychiatrist. It's like clinical psychologist, whatever. There's like 50 people that can do it. Obviously, if they're outside of that box, the DBQ is worthless. Okay. So you have to be able to complete the DBQ. Next is extremely crucial. One of the most common things in DBQs I see missed all the time, it's records review. And so you have a board certified psychiatrist doing your PTSD DBQ. Good. You hit one of the check boxes. That psychiatrist does not review your VA medical records, or that psychiatrist looks at your private records, but not your service treatment records. All of a sudden, that DBQ, it means nothing now, right? The provider has to look at all relevant evidence to include competing evidence. The second that is not kosher in the eyes of the VA, that DBQ is completely invalid at that point. The next box is the diagnosis. It'll say ICD codes, International Classification of Diseases, and that's the actual diagnosis. And then below that is whatever DBQ it is, right? If it's musculoskeletal, mental disorders, PTSD, that's all the symptoms and how the C&P exam is going to be conducted. But that top portion is crucial, and it's the foundation of the nexus. No diagnosis, no claim, period. If your provider does not have your service treatment records, useless, right? Or your C file. In a perfect world, if I'm paying for a private nexus, one, I'm going to request my C file and then give that to them specifically. So then whenever they say, what records did you review? My claims file. And that's going to have everything the VA used to make that determination. That's ideal world. So the DBQ is the foundation of the nexus. And then I want to talk about the content of the nexus, Jason, and then I'll kick it back to you. I really love Nexus letters. So one, if you're going to pay for one, generally speaking, content goes summary. Executive summary. This condition is at least as likely as not caused by whatever. Boom, you have your burden of proof. Bam, it's right there, one paragraph. Below that, you'll generally see like an about me, about the provider. I'm psychiatrist so-and-so, and I went to this college and did all this stuff and was a practicing physician, whatever their career is, right? You want it to be, the goal is for them to show you that they are able to complete that Nexus letter. Right? They're talking about how they played soccer in college. Obviously, that's worthless, right? It's got to be relevant to the claim. The next piece is generally what is missing. In most Nexus letters that I see, someone will say, hey, I submitted a Nexus and I got denied. There's two things I want to see. One, your decision letter. Two, your Nexus letter. And almost every time this piece of the content is missing, and that's what I'm going to call evidence analysis. You can call it many things, but it's just an analysis of the evidence. So saying, hey, what it could look like, and I'm going to paraphrase, said name veteran was, I almost said name Marine there. Said name veteran was seen for migraines in 2012 during the PDHA, blah, 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 blah. And it really goes into the medical analysis. And the purpose of the evidence analysis is, hey, here's why I made the nexus in the summary. That piece is crucial. In the medical world, there'll be like mechanisms of actions, right? And you really have to explain, not you, the provider really has to explain what brought them to the nexus statement. You can't just say it's at least as likely as not. It has to be at least as likely as not through the evidence analysis. The last section would be any supporting literature that supports the opinion, which is absolutely crucial. So the provider makes the opinion, and then you have the medical consensus saying, hey, generally speaking, everyone here agrees. That's why I said it's at least as likely as not. And then they sign it and do whatever. That's the content of a nexus. Last thing I'll say, and I swear I'll give it back to you. If any of those are missing, any of it, right? The doctor doesn't look at your VA medical records. The provider doesn't have the evidence analysis. Any element is missing. That nexus in DBQ, you might as well just use it as toilet paper because it's absolutely worthless at that point. And so with that, Jason, I'm going to push it over to you. I don't know how you want to take that or what your thoughts on
Yeah.
it, but though that's my opinion, at least, on a good Nexus and a good DBQ.
And yes, on all of it, right? I mean, it's hard to really expand on it because that's pretty much dialed in. It's pretty clear, concise. But what I do want to say is, and I'll double down on a few things here in a second, is we live in this world now where we hear other people either online like this or in a comment or at a coffee shop, right? Whatever. Oh man, my Nexus worked great, right? I got a Nexus letter, super sweet. I just had them say that I had this condition. It's at least likely as not, and it was perfect, right? I got to whatever percentage. Maybe you didn't even need a Nexus letter. Maybe it was already documented. And so they didn't really give a shit about your Nexus letter that was garbage.
Yeah.
They threw it out and they focused on the evidence that was in the file, right? So again, run your race. The best thing I could think about when you were talking about this, I had two versions in my head. One was that guy or girl that happened to get their claim approved with a crappy Nexus that they didn't need anyway, and they thought this Nexus is what got, this Nexus letter is what got that for me. And then they share that template with their friends because it's dynamite. So there's that version. And then I think about the versions that the attorney helps you get. And I mean, they're like a page and a half. They got attachments. I mean, they're legit. Now, there's somewhere in between that still works, right? That you can work with your doctor yourself and all of that. That's not the $1,500 Nexus letter, right? That you can work with your private doctor. They'll do it for free. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of pushback because it's like, look, I'm here to be a doctor. I'm not really, I don't want to write. I already do too much paperwork as it is. You can give them a sample, something that you're kind of looking for. You want them to create their own on their letterhead, right? And you want them to sign it, but at least it gives them a template so they don't have to think about like, what are they even looking for, right? So it's kind of like doing your NCOER for your own, right? And then they just take and pillage it. So there's no harm in doing that. You're not writing it for them. You're not putting it on their letterhead. You're not signing it. You're giving them an idea of what you're looking for. And you can even be vague. And I'm looking for this section, this section, this section. If you could talk a little bit about that, if you could talk a little bit about this, right? Make it easier for them. I really am a fan of how you bring it up and how you ask for it makes a difference, right? That's why you'll always hear me say, I really need to get a letter from you that really kind of outlines my condition so that way I can file my claim with the VA to get reimbursed for medical expenses because I'm coming here, right? And then that kind of lowers the bar a little bit. If you say, yeah, I need it for my VA stuff, then the doctor might think they're going to lose you and you're just going to go to the VA forever. And now they don't have a patient after they do this. Or that it's just a big, a big complicated thing. So in any case, I did pull up here kind of what you were talking about as well, Clay, and I'm just going to kind of read through it for folks just to read through it. So a Nexus letter from a doctor can help support a VA disability benefit claim. A good Nexus letter should be brief, thorough, and credible. Brief and thorough.
Yeah.
Okay, so take that for what it's worth. And it should follow a standard business format, right? It should include the following elements: credentials, the doctor's name, specialty, practice name, right? All that stuff to build the value of that person, right? Because later on, if your doctor has more weight behind them than, let's say, the CNP doctor, well, now you win, right? But if it's the other way around, because your doctor decided to leave off 5 other credentials that he has that are loosely related, but bolster him up in that field, yeah, that could hurt you. So make sure that they have everything. So the credentials, reference the statement that the doctor has reviewed the veteran's medical records, which you talked about, claim. You kind of rhyme. So, which is what you talked about, right? It's important on the DBQ, right, to talk about that they reviewed something. It's not just out of nowhere that this is happening. So, a statement from the doctor that they have reviewed the veteran's medical records and military records related to the claim. Medical opinion, right? That would be the doctor's opinion about the cause of the veteran's condition and how it relates to their military service. The doctor should use terms like, well, hopefully they don't use this, not likely, which could be an option, right? That would be a CMP examiner's option for sure. But your doctor, you wouldn't want to submit it if it said that, by the way. Um, unless they said it's not likely to have occurred outside of service. There you go.
Ooh,
Yeah. So, or at least likely as not, or more than likely, or highly likely, right? Obviously, any of those later ones are enough for the VA. The VA's evidence threshold, we'll say, is that if evidence is in equipoise, equal on both sides, they're supposed to rule in your favor. That's why you're always going to hear at least as likely as not. I'm a fan of asking for more than likely just because it just feels better. But if the doctor feels like, well, I can't really, well, then fine. How about 50-50? Let's just go with at least as likely as not. And then that kind of, it gives you a way to kind of back up a little bit if you need to. So it allows them to continue to write it. So it goes on to say they should also explain why they believe an in-service event, injury, or disease caused the disability and reference medical studies, case law, or research journals to support their opinion. That is stuff you can do and bring to the doctor for them to then utilize, right? So make it easy for them. If you had a checkbox checked on a self-assessment, right, that kind of loosely creates a nexus, right? You self-attested to having migraines when you were in, but that was the only thing. You never got diagnosed. You never had anything else. There was one little checkbox that said that you had experienced headaches. They can reference that you first started complaining of your migraines in your time in service. They can reference that. Or they can also reference the fact that you didn't mention it when you were in service because of fear of reprimand and what have you and all that stuff, and that you self-treated with Motrin and blah, blah, blah. Next is medical rationale, a full explanation that supports the doctor's opinion. So they give the opinion, then again, the medical rationale, which they all understand. A recent exam, if you had a recent exam, it'd be good for the doctor to express that as it just gives a little more weight to the letter, in fact. And then lastly, it says that the letter should be written and signed on letterhead and include the date above the first paragraph. And then it says that the average cost of a Nexus letter from a company is $1,500. And so that goes back to the is it worth it piece, right? You might not even need one. So with that, Clay, that's I'm just really doubling down on what you said and just reiterating.
Oh yeah, I think I want to let's go ahead and cover one more question, Jason. And this one has got me on the fence. I really don't know which side to take here. But if you have, we're just going to say a good Nexus and a good DBQ, which is everything we just talked about. You have the DBQ, you have the evidence, you have the Nexus letter, you have the in-service event, the current diagnosis. You submit what's known as a fully developed claim. I'm not saying what you think is a fully developed claim, right? An actual fully developed claim, meaning you have the big three criteria with the DBQ. You submitted that. Is the VA going to schedule you a CMP exam? I'm going to tell you straight up, 90% that answer is yes. Have I seen FDC, fully developed claims, FDCs? Have I seen those go through without exams? Yes. Extremely uncommon. I'm talking like I can count less than 10, and I've been doing this for years at this point. And are they going to send you to a CMP examiner? There's an automated processing system involved with that. That's probably where I would point the finger, or just really untrained adjudicators handling that claim. But I'll get off that horse, right? So they schedule you a CMP exam. The question is, do you go?
Sure.
Yes or no?
Absolutely.
I know what CFR says, that a fully developed claim does not require a CMP exam. But then I'm like, okay, well, if it's fully developed and I go to that CMP examiner, is that the VA's way, and people will say develop to deny, which is you won't find that in CFR, right? It's just a slang term, but it's what I would call a real slang term, that the VA does develop to deny. And I think a CMP exam on a FDC is an indication that it is happening. Now, I know you said yes. Because I know you're going to say yes, I'm going to make an argument for why I would not go. But I am on the fence personally. You know, if it's me, I honestly don't know what I would do. Here's my arguments for no. One, and if you're not going to go, you better be 1,000, and I mean 1,000% sure that is a good Nexus and a good DBQ, and your claim is truly fully developed. Because if it's not, and I mean one of those elements is missing, deny. 1,000% you're going to get denied, and you just wasted all that money, right? Because now that takes away your supplemental claim, because you already used that private Nexus, private DBQ. You're going to have to get another one. You could do an HLR. They're going to send you to a CMP exam, by the way. It's just not going to be good. But let's just assume that that veteran did have a fully developed claim. If they did not attend the CMP exam and they were denied, a higher level review would correct it. And I've seen this happen many times, but I don't think I would ever recommend it. I hope that makes sense. I know it doesn't, because technically, no, you don't have to. But man, you are asking the VA to slap you right across the face if you don't go, and you better bet you have, or be extra sure that you have everything you need for that service connection. I'll leave it at that, Jason. Take it from there.
I say don't play with it, right? Look, if they make an exam for you, go to the exam, and do the dog and pony show. I mean, look, we're all veterans. We've all had to do the dog and pony show, right? So it's just chalk it up to that and move forward. If you miss it, bet on them either giving you a lower rating or potentially just not even service connecting you for some reason because they couldn't validate for some reason through their CMP examiner. Whatever it is. The bottom line is will you be able to correct it? Sure. Are you going to lose money? No, because you're going to get back pay. But I'll tell you what, I will take an earlier decision with monthly checks over a massive amount of back pay 10 years from now, right? So there's that. So don't mess with it. Take it for what it is. Chalk it up. You're prepared. If you're that prepared with everything and that solid, this is nothing. I mean, CMP exams for those that are prepared are nothing. It's just another day at the office, so to speak. So to me, if you have an examination scheduled or really anything, a re-examination, if the VA tells you to go anywhere at any time within a certain period of time, do it. And figure it out later. Don't, on that note, real quick, I just want to throw this out there and look, I get it. This isn't really in this wheelhouse, but now that we're talking about them doing things and you having to act within a certain amount of time, is a reduction. If you get a proposal for a reduction, you have two options if you actually read through your whole packet that they send you. One is you can appeal it within 60 days of that notice. Great, you're probably going to appeal it. But you can also request a hearing at 30 days. You have to do that within 30 days. Okay, so it's a shorter time period. It is absolutely essential that you request a hearing. You must, in my opinion, request a hearing in conjunction with your appeal. So you have to do it at your 30-day mark. Why? Because the VA will not reduce you if you request a hearing while they're doing your appeal. So let's say it takes you 6 months for the appeal to play out. They're not going to reduce you while they're figuring out the appeal. But if you wait and you file for your appeal 45 days, you missed the 30-day window. Now they'll reduce you while they're going through the appeal process. So don't mess with the VA in that way. If they say to show up to something or you need to file something by a certain time frame, do it. Your last thoughts on that piece, Clay, that I threw in.
anytime there's a reduction, I'm a fan of one, taking to a hearing, and then you also might want to. The only thing I'll add to that is you might want to consider hiring an attorney at that
Yeah.
point. I understand the pushback. One, I am personally a fan of an attorney for cases like that because at that point you are arguing, right? It is no longer he said, she said. It is
Right.
it's 38 CFR and M21 TAC 1, and then previous board hearings. An attorney is going to be good at that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now
Good
I've
call.
seen veterans take it on their own and they've won. That happens. I've seen veterans take it on their own and get absolutely hammered. That also happens. So food for thought, take that with you. And then one thing I'll throw at you, Jason, back on the CMP exam side is a lot of claims companies, and I won't call any out, okay, but they will advise veterans to not attend CMP exams when they have that fully developed claim. And I think the reason is because they understand it's fully developed. Now, the issue is it's just you alone. You don't, a VSO is going to tell you to go to your CMP exam 100%. So it's just you alone, no company, no attorney. Do I expect veterans, your everyday veteran, to understand the nitpicky nuance of a DBQ and a Nexus? And if your claim is truly fully developed? No. And if that's you, which is like 99% of all veterans, you would probably want to attend your CMP exam. And if you want to risk it for the biscuit, be my guest. That's what I'm on the fence about because I understand the process. I don't think I would go to one. It just depends.
Here's the thing, Clay, is that you're putting too much credit on the VA side to understand it, right? So recently, there was $100 million that was screwed up within the VA for VRE, or not VRE, excuse me, TDIU recipients. Okay. They underpaid like 10 million of them. No, overpaid. They overpaid 10 million of them, $10 million they overpaid, and $85 million they underpaid. So the VA is consistently screwing up, right? They're consistently denying claims, giving a lower thing. You're going to the higher level. You're going to supplemental. You're pushing it to the board. They're screwing up on payments. 85 million underpaid TDIU folks. You're going to sit there and go, well, should I go to the CMP exam? I mean, it's a fully developed claim. They're going to look and they're going to say, wow, they're right. They didn't need to go to that. Dumb us. No, they're going to go, they didn't go to the CMP exam.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were a well-oiled machine, then they wouldn't send you the CMP exam. But they're not.
No.
They haven't noticed that you sent in a fully developed claim. They don't know what a fully developed claim is. They're just getting claims in. They're looking at them. They're looking for the CNP exam to say that it's service connected. And then they're trying to figure out where it falls on the rating schedule. And then they're moving it on. No CNP exam. I don't know what to do. Denied. Okay, next one. Why'd you deny it? There was no CNP exam. Oh, right? So just go. Just go. Give them what they need and move on.
Yeah, no, I'm on.
Again.
That's okay. I'm on the fence of that one, and I will say the VAs. There's a lot of. I'll leave it at this because I don't want to dive into this topic, but there's a lot of automated processing systems. The reason why the VA has record-breaking claims is because there's a ton of automated processing systems. The issue is those automated processing systems don't always work as intended, and that's probably the best way I would put it.
That's pretty nice.
I think the clearest indication is the National Work Queue had over 10,000 claims ready for decision. All they had to do was kick it out to a regional office. But the automated system didn't know that. And so it just kept stacking these claims in. And so any claim that had the word herbicide in it, this is paraphrased, any claim that had the word herbicide in it, for some reason, the system could not process those. And so it kept it at the National Work Queue. It wasn't until about 1,000 veterans was like, hey, where the heck is my claim? And then a person, a human, starts to investigate, and that's whenever they found the error in the National Work Queue automated processing system. Now, they have processing systems for claim intake, for ordering CMP exams. They have the awesome automated processing system between CMP examiner and rater. Okay. There's an automated processing system from rater to decision. There's quality assurance. There are so many opportunities for a system to, not a person, a computer, to make a mistake. And that I can get behind 1,000%. I'll leave it at that, Jason. If you have your final thoughts on anything we talked about, and then go ahead and take us away.
Yeah, no. So I'm just going to read this last little bit, and then we'll bounce off. So from the VA's website, does everyone who files a claim need to have a VA exam? No is the answer, right? We'll ask you to have a claim exam only if we need more information to decide your claim. Stopping there, if the VA rater sees that an exam was triggered, they think we needed more information, right? They're not going to, was that a mess up? No, they don't care. They just, CMPA was requested, so we must have needed more stuff. I don't have time to figure it out, so I'm just going to believe that, number one. Moving on, if you have enough medical evidence in your file to support your claim, we'll follow the acceptable clinical evidence process. That's the ACE process that Clay's talking about. This means we'll review your medical records and ask you to submit more evidence if needed instead of asking you to have an exam. Medical evidence may include doctor, hospital reports, tests, blah, blah, blah. So the bottom line on that statement is, sure, no, not everybody needs to have an exam, but they will order an exam if they believe they need more evidence. So let's follow the bouncing ball to the rater who sees clearly that you never went to your exam that they requested. Well, why did they request an exam? It's because they need more information. The rater thinks, even if they don't, and that's going to skew their mind. All of a sudden they're like, oh, this dirtbag didn't show up for their, boy, they're trying to skirt the system. We needed more evidence from them. I'm going to have to deny them, right? So don't do that. Even though Clay says that he's on the fence, he's really not. He cares about you, and he wants you to make sure that you stack the odds in your favor. So with that, now I get to just end it. That's awesome. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you so very much. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.